Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 75 of the Alfie Whattam Technology Podcast. As always, we are of course sponsored by welovealpha.com. If you're an engineering manager, a CTO, or a recruiter, and you're looking to hire software engineers, whether that's React developers with mad front-end Picasso-like skills, or Java engineers, or C#.NET developers at Microsoft by day and Microsoft by night, whatever engineers you need, welovealpha.com is the place to go to hire the best developers in the UK. Thanks for joining us for today's episode. We're joined by a previous guest who's come back on the podcast. Mohamed, could you give everybody a little bit of an update, please, on who you are and what you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, my name is Mohamed. I have been in software industry, I think, for almost 20 years now. Today, I'm an engineering manager in Google, like an SRE manager, basically on the group overseeing the SRE for messages RCS, which is the Rich Communication Services. Yeah, that's about it for me. Like previously, I worked in different companies like Amazon, Microsoft, Booking.com, and a few other startups.
Okay, awesome. And you were on previously when you were working at Amazon, but now at Google and back on the show. So thanks for taking the time out. It'd be good to get your perspective on kind of what's happening in the world of tech. So without further ado, we'll start with Starbucks. Starbucks is detailing its blockchain-based loyalty program and NFT community. Starbucks Odyssey, very cool name. There's the logo there. So Starbucks is getting into the world of NFTs. So today, Starbucks officially introduced Starbucks Odyssey, which is launching later this year. The coffee chain's first foray into building with Web3 technology. The new experience combines the very successful Starbucks Rewards loyalty program with an NFT platform, which is allowing its users and customers to earn and purchase digital assets that unlock exclusive experiences and rewards. So I think, Mohamed, that the idea is you'll unlock NFTs on the app, which will give you free lattes and free pumpkin spice drinks or whatever you order when you're in Starbucks, right? But it's interesting to see more and more bigger companies like Starbucks get into Web3 and NFTs and crypto and blockchain. What do you make of all of this out of interest?
Yeah, I think like basically crypto and blockchain in general, like they started to get a little bit of bad reputation. Like the technology itself is really nice, but they start to get bad reputation in some companies because they are linked into like cryptocurrency. So people look at them as process, which is it should not. Like there are a lot of other usage that can be used outside of just like let's do cryptocurrency, or use it like for NFT. Like basically let's sell this like weird painting for whatever number. And that's one usage that what you described. It can be used like that. It can be used basically on unlocking for any digital set like a video game, or it can be used different situation in like security or like cryptography in general. So I think it would be nice to see other usage rather than just correlating the technology to a single use or the main use domain that has been there for years. So that's I think the main way that it can basically progress, to just get outside the single domain of cryptocurrency and basically all of that things that has been going on for years.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, blockchain is about more than just Bitcoin and crypto. It's about so much more, and even NFTs are about so much more than just a digital, JPEG for sale on OpenSea. And this is a good example of how NFTs are starting to get in the real world use cases and applications. So, you can now basically you can use an NFT as a digital receipt essentially to show ownership over something. So receipts, concert tickets, like you said, video games. So when you say video games, are you referring to using NFTs in terms of like clothing that you can have on a video game, or is it like unlockable, like an achievement? Or?
Exactly, stuff like a game of World of Warcraft, or basically those massive multi-player online games that when you basically get a new shield or something like that, so it can't be tied into using something like that.
Yeah. That's cool. It's cool. Well, it's good to see Starbucks getting involved in Web3. I went to, it wasn't an official Starbucks, but I went to a Starbucks virtual reality coffee shop in the metaverse very recently, and it was very, very cool to see big companies like that getting more and more involved into Web3 and that sort of thing. Moving on from Starbucks and staying on the topic of kind of the cutting edge side of things, smart clothing. So forget silicone. This computer is made of fabric. So this jacket can raise and lower its own hood without chips or batteries, and one day might help disabled wearers move. So essentially you've got a jacket here, and it's controlled, as far as I can tell, by airflow, by pressing certain buttons. So Dan Preston logs onto the video call in a respectable button-up shirt. His personal style may lead towards the conventional, but this engineer is all about his new fashion design, which is a black jacket which performs motions without electronics, so it can raise and lower its own hood with the push of a button. Got a little JPEG here, a little video rather, a GIF showing what's happening. So by pressing a button, the airflow moves the hood up and down, and obviously you can only start to see other use cases for this in terms of it moving arms, for example, up and down as well. So it's like a smart jacket, smart clothing, but not using electronics, which is kind of interesting. What do you make of all this?
Yeah, that's actually interesting. Like the idea of getting up like by inflation, like can it just be there to add like, but it's still going to use electronics. But the idea, like if you touch water, can it inflate to become like a life jacket? Or basically, how far can they go to basically make something you can wear in different weather? Like basically, does it heat your body, or can it basically be used to change color? So right now, the basic jackets that we have like double face jackets that you can just have two different faces.
Yeah.
But if it has a chance to like moving interchangeably or like changing colors or stuff like that, then you can pretty much get like one jacket that replaces 10 of your jackets, and like the possibilities would go in a lot of different directions because of it.
Yeah, no, I can certainly see it happening. I've seen more and more people that walking down the street selling products, handing out leaflets, wearing screens on their clothing, especially on the back. It's a good way to advertise a business. But yeah, I feel like more and more clothes will start to become essentially smart clothing over the next couple of years. One thing that I've started to see more and more is like NFC technology within clothing as well. So, for example, on a sleeve, using that to open up doors, using that to pay for your tube, you know, pay for contactless payment and that sort of thing. Slightly different to this jacket itself, but the concept of smart clothing, it's probably only a matter of time until that becomes almost the norm, what a lot of people are wearing in many respects. Probably hard to put a prediction on that, right, in terms of guess when it's going to happen, though. I mean, probably another couple of years away.
There's this one on the NFC, like basically the idea if you're like on a bike and you're going to a garage, instead of waiting like on the door and waiting for it to open, maybe it can scan you when you're coming and then open a door for you or something like that. So yeah, there is a lot of possibilities for
Well,
that.
an argument could be made, Mohamed, that it's a almost like a stepping stone to getting the tech just embedded in you to begin with. You know, why have the NFC technology on the jacket and wave it when you could just get it somehow in your hand and wave it on there? Do you think people will be jumping into that idea, or do you think that's a little bit too far in a couple of years? So that the idea of human/machine hybrid, if you understand what I mean, do you think people would be put off by that, or do you think people would go for it?
I think that's basically what Elon Musk is working on right now. But I see not many people are still not, like most people are still not ready to have something like in their body. Like, because if you think about it, like smart, like any wearable, for example, not just the clothing, like watches or anything like that, you can leave it at home like really easily. But if it's something in the body, you need to go to someone to remove it or someone to add it. And then like, what if you traveled like in a country that doesn't have such doctors yet, and you want to remove it? Like, what would happen at the same time? So I think there's still some time until this has become widely used, or like have ways of making it used but easily interchangeable.
Yeah, you mentioned Elon Musk, and his Neuralink is fascinating. I mean, the way he believes in just a very short period of time with the Neuralink, you'll essentially be able to do almost Matrix-like skill downloading, where you can install a language into your mind and be able to then speak the language after it's been done. Obviously, I'm imagining some of these projects are probably going to take a little bit longer than what he's optimistically hoping for. But I mean, imagine the ramifications on the world if you can install and then be able to perform karate or whatever the skill is that you're trying to learn. Have you seen the videos of the Neuralink? I know it's still in early development, but have you seen what Elon Musk's working on there?
Yes, but basically, what most people have fear about, and I kind of share that fear because I work in software, is basically the percentage of people, because any software would have bugs. But then, like, when the bugs is basically something that would happen in your brain, people would become like really scared. What if I'm one of those unlucky 0 point whatever percent
Sure. Yeah.
and end up receiving that bug and then just my brain like shut down or something like that? What would happen? And this becomes the main problem of like how to make it safe. That's the main concern that I personally have.
Yeah, I mean, it does, like, these accidents do happen. I mean, I remember with the Samsung phones exploding a couple of years ago because they were the battery was too hot, and you know, all kinds of mistakes like this do happen. I mean, and inevitably a few Neuralinks might go kaput or haywire, you know, inside people. So you're right. It's a little bit less of a risk when I can just leave my phone or my watch at home. But having it in your head is a dangerous step, but one that I think inevitably probably will happen if the technology gets good enough. People will probably make that move. I mean, first the computers are on your desk, then you're in your pocket, then you're on your wrist, then you're on your head with VR, and then inevitably they'll be inside you. Only a matter of time, I imagine.
Yeah, I think it is. It would become to the point when the benefits outweigh the risks. That's when a lot of adoptions would start happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, cool. Well, finishing off the news from today, 3D printing with Mars dust. It's not as silly as it sounds. So Martian rocks could provide the foundation for viable 3D printing material. I think the concept here is if we do get to Mars, we can't take a lot of stuff with us. So if we can then have 3D printers creating a lot of the things that we need when we're on Mars, and obviously that would be a massive better way of doing it, and saving a lot of storage when shipping those items across space. So a team of researchers at Washington State University have turned a simulated version of a Martian rock into high performance material that can be fed into a 3D printer. In a blog post, the academics explained the development could allow for essential tools and rocket parts to be manufactured on Mars itself, solving a variety of problems associated with the need to transport heavy payloads to the red planet. What do you make of this, Mohamed?
That's actually a very interesting idea, like that I never thought about. Like basically, and it keeps me wondering, like, what is special about, or how easy it is. Because, like, if you think about Mars, like the whole like solar system, or even when you go to the universe, like it is the same material, like basically coming from Big Bang. So it's like I
Yes.
would not some materials to exist on Mars. It doesn't exist on Earth. So for me, it is the same question: how easy for you to come like with a 3D printer and go to the desert and basically use whatever materials there to print. So it needs to be that easy. Otherwise, you need a lot of heavy machinery to do the transformation from rocks to that material, which would pretty much defeat the purpose because you still need to like transfer those machinery. Yes, it would basically cut some of the stuff that you want to transfer, but it's still maybe not so viable right now with the current technology for space and the cost associated with that. But yeah, I think it is a good step in the right direction.
Yeah, I was speaking to somebody once, I think it was on the podcast from SpaceX, who made a really interesting observation, which is what happens when we have 3D printers which can print 3D printers, which can then print 3D printers. Because then if you have a 3D printer which has got a camera on it, and a microphone, and that's hooked up to the cloud, and they're all connected. Then a 3D printer creates a 3D printer, which then gets sent into space. It has a camera, it has a mic, and then that then self-replicates and replicates and replicates. And then before long, you have millions of these things, all with cameras, all with mics. So we're seeing all over the universe by sending them into space. We're hearing what's going on. They have other sensors on and that sort of thing. All of the video and the audio is being collated, so you can watch it on your smartphone in theory. So 3D printing could be a huge step between us being on one planet to being on a ton of planets, because we can use it to do the research to make sure it's safe for us to go there and that sort of thing before we send people. Does that make sense, what I'm describing? I haven't really described it as well as they did, but
it all to go to like loss of conservation of energy. It's like basically transformation between like the first phase, which is the rocks, the second phase, which is a material to be used to create another, like those recursive creation of 3D printers. That's like the point that needs to be resolved. Once this is resolved, I think everything else would be much easier.
Yeah, the 3D printing, the use cases, I was speaking to somebody recently about, because when you think about 3D printing, at the moment, it's a way to make a toy essentially in your house. It doesn't have many applications, but more and more people are investigating using 3D printing to create food. If you can have a basic material and that can create a variety of different types of foods, and that can play a massive role in solving famine and world hunger. If instead of having to grow food, you can literally print it. However, on the flip side, there is a big problem at the moment, especially in the States, with something called ghost guns. I'm not sure if you've heard of these, but obviously tracking guns already is pretty difficult given how many guns are in America. But if you're at home, you can now 3D print your own gun or your own weapon or your own knife, and you don't need a license to get one in that case, because you can just make it at home. Do you think that sort of thing could cause a problem if people are 3D printing like weapons that can't be tracked and other potentially dangerous things, as well as the good side with Mars? You also have some risks, don't you, with this sort of thing?
It would be like, but again, like it's all about what's the kind of material to be used. Because like if you think about guns as well, there's ammunitions, and basically like how that the gun itself, like you need to build from a material that can handle that kind of pressure. So it needs to be like a 3D printer that prints. It should be like a really advanced 3D printers, but then it would come to a point like such 3D printer would be super expensive. It's definitely would be more expensive than a person going to buy like an illegal gun.
Yeah.
It should be like this would be something that only like weapons dealers or something like that, or that can afford to do such thing, because no one would go and buy a device like $1 million to print a gun that they can buy from like black markets for like $500 or something like that.
Sure.
Yeah, so that still will provide some kind of protection for this scenario, but again, like moving much forward, like when this becomes like much more basic, price goes down. But who knows, like how kind of weapons we have back then.
Yeah, I mean, a gun might be the least of somebody's problem at that part, but yeah, look, only probably a matter of time. I mean, phones, computers, everything starts out very expensive, very big, works its way down to get smaller and smaller and smaller, less and less expensive, and who knows, only a matter of time until what we're speaking about in theory might become a reality. Okay, cool. Well, look, awesome. Well, thanks for coming back, Mohamed. It was good to get your perspective, your point of view on what's happening in the world of tech, with a few stories at the moment. Be good to do this again in a few months. Always be good to get you back on. So yeah, so thanks for your time, mate. I do appreciate it, and thanks to everybody for watching as well.
Thank you.